Now, Dennis, you bring up a very cool feature that interests me personally because it brings up a point of interest in this controller, that it actually has a brain, and it's not dependent on your DAW. And we all know your DAW can do groups. You can set as many groups as you want, however you'd like. So that means you could do your groups in the DAW on top of your actual console groups, which I know, like, my engineers like myself would want to have it in front of us while we're working, while we're creating fader movements, be able to group our channels in a way that makes sense in front of us and not have to go rely on something that's going to be set in stone there. I think it's a very cool feature to be able to, just like an SSL console or just like an analog console with that grouping feature, to be able to do it on the fly and change relativity in a way that you just showed very successfully, in my opinion. I think that's actually rather cool feature because, you know, it's got its own mind and it's on its own accord.
Sure, and if you have groups set up in your DAW already, when you move the fader that's already in that group, it will also move the other faders.
Right.
I mean, it sees it knows that you've moved this fader, and then the program says, hey, the other faders need to move too.
Right.
So it will also do both.
It will do both.
But of course, you know, what I just showed you how to group that, by touching arc segments or just actually touching the faders, you know, it's maybe 3 clicks. You could
Much faster.
Yeah, you could do 3 clicks and only be through 2 channels.
Right. You've got to go through your DAW, you know, click, group 1, these are my drums. On every channel you have to do that. This way it's a much more hands-on, quicker way of getting to the point with your groupings and deciding how multiple faders should be gain staged very quickly.
And what's great is that you can, while you're writing automation or you're actually in play, you can group these on the fly and ungroup them. So if you said you needed, for a section, you needed to group 3 faders and you were writing automation, because the grouping is handled inside of the Tango, the DAW just knows that it thinks that you grab 3 faders and move the 3 faders at the same time.
Right.
So you can add and subtract groups on the fly as you see fit.
That's a rather innovative feature, in my opinion.
It makes things, you know, it's all about being faster.
Workflow.
It's all workflow. The faster you can go, the more work you can do, the more money you can...
That's what it's all about.
Perfect. So we're going to go over to the transport section and your active view. It's kind of one and the same. So we have the active view here. Right now, basically, we're looking at an EQ. But if we went to, say, channel 7 here into the inserts, on this channel we have a channel EQ and the gold verb, which comes up in our inserts window here. You can touch channel EQ, which comes up in your EQ window. If you look down here, you have your curve. You also have your curve here. And all of your controls are mapped to the right-hand side of the screen, to these 16 encoders. If there's more than 16 parameters, you'll have pages that you'll be able to page through to get to the other one. So let's go back. So we have the channel EQ and the gold verb. So now we just hit gold verb, and now all of the controls for the gold verb are right here that you can change on your DAW. If you look over at the screen, you can actually see when I hit that plugin, the actual plugin pops up onto the screen. And there's a button here that says hide show all. You can either bring it back up or hide it so you just want to see your edit window. And then if we move down a little bit into kind of our transport section, we have a whole section of buttons here. This top row section here are all user definable. You can basically set up anything you want to those buttons that the DAW can use. Then you have the lower section here, which is, you know, play, stop, fast forward, rewind, record. They're hard buttons. They do what they do, of course. And then a nice jog wheel. If we go into our configure and then our edit keys, everything pops up here, and you have a little, all these buttons here have a little icon in the window. If you look up here, it has the same icon, and say this button that looks like a flag is set to set left by playhead. You could go in and change that to anything, snap to region, you know, whatever you feel like making it, you can change any of these buttons. Auto punch, anything. You really anything that the DAW can do, you can change those buttons too. One thing that you haven't seen yet is that if you hit keyboard here, you have a on-screen keyboard that you can go right in and type. Your DAW sees it. I mean, even when your DAW is not running, the computer knows that the keyboard is still attached. So if you're on the desktop and you need to, rename a WAV file or something like that, just start typing. Hit keyboard, start typing, and everything shows up. So there's really no need to have a hardware keyboard anywhere near you. It's right on your screen. There's a hard button on the left-hand side. Anytime you touch it, pops right up. Basically, that's kind of the overview of the touchscreen. Small little things like if you touch the pan, you can go in and actually touch the touchscreen and pan left and right. You can turn the knob if you want, or you can just go in and slide your finger back and forth. It goes to the same if you had it going to a surround bus. You can actually move it around the surround bus.